One of the greatest and most fantastical video games I've ever played has to be Chrono Trigger. There's just something about the immense scope and magic of Chrono Trigger that captures the imagination of a wide variety of gamers to this very day. I wasn't even born when Chrono Trigger first released, and yet it's a game that just completely threw me for a loop and absorbed me into its world when I first got into it in high school with the Nintendo DS releases of the game. It may seem obvious to some, but I feel like a lot of us never really stopped to think about what exactly made this game so fucking special and so stand out for its time, to where its name is still being mentioned in glory to this fucking day. Personally, I would have to say that comes down to the sheer scope of Chrono Trigger and the immense amount of love and passion that was put into crafting the world and the setting. There definitely was a strong sense of artistic identity that went into creating the game from start to finish. The world of Chrono Trigger has to be one of the most imaginative I've ever seen in a JRPG to this day. And when you combine it with that iconic Akira Toriyama art style, it was just a recipe for absolute bliss and deliciousness. When you take a look at Chrono Trigger and its world and characters, the one thing I would like to really emphasize is that it's kind of an everything RPG. It's not just any single one genre. It is everything. It is sci-fi, it is fantasy. We have a fucking robot in the party named Robo. We have a frogman from the Middle Ages, cursed to look like a frog. We get a bloody cave woman in the party who just fucking smacks shit really hard. Magic and technology intermingle and intermix freely without restriction. You're flying on a time machine in the ancient era and you're slinging magic in the fucking future against robots. There aren't a lot of other JRPGs where you do that, and in the JRPGs that do exist where you do that, it's fucking Chrono Trigger that influenced them, that inspired them to make their game like that. It's the everything RPG in its tone and atmosphere as well. There are really light and hilarious moments throughout the entirety of the game, really pervy, iconic Akira Toriyama moments. A great example would be, for example, when you first meet Ayla, her hitting on the main character Chrono, and the main heroine Marl getting super jealous. You have the freaking trial very early on in the game, which is one of the most hilarious moments in the entire game, where you're essentially being pushed around in a fucking kangaroo court by a bunch of people and having a bunch of random charges levied upon you for shit you don't even remember doing in the game. And then there are incredibly fucking dark and grim moments, like, for example, the struggle for fucking survival and existence of entire species and races throughout the world and throughout history. Like, for example, the dinosaur race fighting with humans in the prehistoric era, or the demons fighting with the humans in the medieval era. Class divides and conflicts in the ancient era between people who could use magic and people who couldn't. And the absolute destroyed, toxic, depressing state of the future when it is ultimately destroyed by the greatest threat to the existence of every living thing on the entire planet, the main antagonist, Lavos. In that sense, I would say Chrono Trigger is a lot like One Piece, in that it can be both really light and funny and charming, but at the same time extremely depressing and extremely intense and dramatic. Next on the chopping block that I would say really fucking makes Chrono Trigger special is its gameplay. Chrono Trigger is interesting in the sense that its gameplay is very simple and nothing really crazy going on here, but it's so fine-tuned and addictive that you can play it for literally hours and never get bored. To me, it's really a perfect example of the fact that turn-based combat isn't fucking boring inherently. Bad turn-based combat is boring and non-interesting. Good turn-based combat keeps the audience engaged. So in combat, a unique aspect of Chrono Trigger that really separates it from its contemporaries is the fact that rather than the screen flashing crashing and you being teleported to an alternate battlefield, the characters themselves just hop into battle formation in whatever location they happen to be, making the fights feel seamless. You have the typical mechanics such as attacking, guarding, using items, but a thing that really separates Chrono Trigger and makes it interesting is the combination attack. So when you have multiple characters in your party at a certain point in the game, you'll be able to combine their abilities together to use special attacks that are far more powerful and are also extremely personal and unique. It really makes you feel like you're in a great party of friends and adventurers that have come closer and closer to each other and have really learned how to coordinate and fight together. It's kind of like the boost strikes from Tales of Arise before the boost strikes from Tales of Arise, and you can use them at any point in the fucking fight as long as you got the juice. So pretty revolutionary in my opinion, though I'm not the greatest expert on old ass, dusty ass JRPGs. There's also the time travel aspect of Chrono Trigger, which I think personally is overplayed, but I think when you do play the game and you see the changes and the effects it has on the world, it really fucking like stands out if you're not overthinking it and you're not expecting it to like blow your fucking mind. For me, one of my most favorite examples of this has to do with the demon race in the world of Chrono Trigger. In the present, the demon race essentially are a perpetually hate-filled group of people who despise humans and angry and upset over the war in the past that happened a few hundred years ago. And as you play the game and as you solve more situations in the past and you fix a lot of the problems that arose in the past and eliminate the bad influences on the demon race, they become a lot more friendly and less hateful. Your situation goes from being harassed in the village every time you go there to people now being extremely kind and nice to you once you've eliminated the bad influence. Another one is Robo choosing to stay back in the past at a particular point for a particular side quest where he would cultivate and raise this desert area before it went completely barren. And when you return and find him in the future, that area is now completely populated with life and vegetation because you left him there. I definitely think Chrono Trigger values more so the little things, the little details in how time travel affects the world rather than some large-scale domino effect of events. And I think that's personally very charming in my opinion. But that's neither here nor there. I'd rather you play the game for yourself than hear me yap on about it if you haven't played it yet already. I think other than the gameplay and everything else I've mentioned about the world and setting, the biggest factor to why this game is so great and why it's so beloved to this day is just the heart and soul that was put into it. You can tell the creators really fucking cared about and loved what they were making, and this really shows in these little things and details that don't have to be in the game but were in the game nonetheless. Like for example, the biker race in the fucking destroyed future that didn't need to be there but is still a cool fucking detail. Or giving you the option to recruit Magus of your own volition. He's not a character you need to have in order to beat the game or complete the game, but he is there, and if you make the right choice, he will join you, and I think that's really fucking cool. How the game is able to connect the Lavos to every single era in the world of Chrono Trigger, from the prehistoric all the way to the future. To me, that's not something people do if they don't give a shit about what they're making. I think that love really carries through in how enjoyable and how fun the game is to not only play but to think about on a big gigantic scale. But yeah, if you haven't played Chrono Trigger before, please do. I think it's a really fucking great game, and if you're a fan of JRPGs, you gotta fucking try it. And if you like this video, please give me a like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter in the description below. I would really love to see you, and thank you for watching the video. Really appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.